The next panel discussion is on the rise of AI-powered influencer marketing. The discussion will cover points like what is next for influencer marketing, how artificial intelligence, machine learning, and natural language processing are revolutionizing the way brands are conducting influencer marketing by combining quantitative and qualitative metrics, how AI-powered platforms work well for matching brands with the right influencers, etc. I would like to invite Dheeraj Sinha, CEO and Chief Strategy Officer, South Asia, Leo Burnett, Publicis Business and Publicis Health, to moderate the discussion. Welcome, Mr. Sinha. Over to you.
So welcome to the conversation on influencer marketing and the role of AI in influencer marketing, right? And to have this conversation, we have two fantastic people in today's fireside chat. We have Chhavi Mittal, who's a content creator. She's a well-known face on television and a popular digital content creator with her venture Shitty Ideas Trending. What a name, right? And her YouTube channel being Woman with Chhavi. She wears many hats, being a writer, entrepreneur, blogger, influencer, actor, model, and I can go on and on. And we also have with us Ishan Jindal, who's the founder and CEO of Wobb.ai. Wobb is an influencer marketing automation platform. Wobb makes it easy for brands to find influencers, standardize payments, automate campaigns, and measure effectiveness. And obviously, Wobb works with many brands such as HDFC Life, Paytm, Imami, Indigo Airlines, and so on and so forth. Right. Today's conversation is largely we will start with the whole idea of influencer marketing and how this is shaping up, and what really is the need to standardize it, to bring structures and data and things like scary things like AI to it, if at all. And on two sides of the spectrum, at one side, it will obviously build and help build predictability for marketers. But at the other side, we have to make sure that too much of regimentation doesn't kill the freedom that creativity has. And we would try and anchor this conversation between those two parts of the axis. Yeah. And I'd like to start with you, Ishan, right? And first, let's try and talk about how do you see the whole idea of influencer marketing shape up, right? Is it at an inflection point? Is it getting more currency in certain categories like say D2C, makeup, personal care brands, less traction in many other categories? Is it in the same stage as a digital was about say a decade ago, when the marketers would say, okay, let's take some play money and see what digital can do for us? In your learning and in your marketing experience, where do you see the idea of influencer marketing?
Thanks, Dheeraj, for that question. And thanks for the introduction. Yes, in our opinion, influencer marketing is definitely at an inflection point. Could be the same as you mentioned, digital marketing a few years ago. But there's a stark difference, which is the whole concept of influencer marketing until a year ago was in question whether this could even work, right? Because fundamentally, influencer marketing was done, taken this into account that there are a set of people who could promote your brand or product, and that could sound organic to their audience, which could create influence and conversions, right? So there was a lot of this rumors or questions around influencers that at one point the customers would be educated enough and they would know, okay, this is a promotion. Then what's the point of doing influencer marketing? But we quickly, and that's what COVID did, is removed all those reluctances from the industry altogether. Everybody knows this is a paid promotion, doesn't matter, right? But influencer marketing is just on the steep. It's just keeps growing on every year on year. And the reason for that is it was fundamentally looked at in a wrong way, or let's say in a different way, not a wrong way, than what it is looked at today, right? Today, people are not looking for organic, to be called as organic. People are looking at as a means for them to create content and reach out to the relevant target group, right? So if I'm a beauty influencer, I can talk with my people who are into beauty and cosmetics. I'm a fitness influencer, I do weightlifting. There are a lot of people who follow me for weightlifting, right? And if I'm introducing a product to them, obviously it comes with certain trust and relevance that this person would not promote me the worst product in the world, right? He would promote me something that is reasonably tested because he wants me to be there with him for a longer duration, or he wants me to follow his content. So that's where it becomes interesting, right? That whole reluctance went away. It started growing over and over again. At the stage where we are, like you rightly said, a lot of things are standardizing and becoming more streamlined. And that's the direction we are headed into when we're talking about influencer marketing today. We're seeing a lot of platforms coming in, right? Like Wobb. Three things are happening fundamentally, according to me. Number one is we have a huge increment in the number of influencers on an average that you're doing every month. We just recently did a campaign. We did 6,000 influencers in 2 days. This is not the scale which was possible earlier, right? And when people are looking at scale like this, they have to have, it cannot be done via manual route, right? So a lot of these different agencies will keep coming in, a lot of standardization will keep coming in, a lot of streamlining will keep coming in. What happens is when you have so many such influencers participating in the campaign, and in general, if you see the trend, the number of influencers have grown tremendously, right? Post-COVID. Everybody is a creator sitting at home or wants to be a creator. A lot of creators have come up in the market. If they've seen there's real money, you can make your future, you can make your livelihood. It's an interesting work. They've enjoyed following their passions and they want to actually show that to the world. You have so many number of influencers on the supply side. On the demand, the number of influencers are increasing. You need more viable options to identify the right set of influencers, right? A more data-driven approach. How do you identify which influencer, and not just influencer, which influencer's audience insights match the one that I have? I want to talk about my audience's gender, not my influencer's gender anymore. I want to talk about their location, their interest, right? And this is where AI comes in. A lot of data-driven solutions come in, and they make that possible. They make that possible that today you can say, okay, you want to run a campaign where you don't want overlapping audience, right? Because influencers could have same percentage of overlapping audience. Nobody talked about this before. I think we've moved from a journey where people were educated enough to talk about followership. Then they said, oh no, we should look at engagement rates because that's what the real meat is. Now people are becoming more and more smart. They're saying, okay, no, it's not just engagement rate. It's about, do I have the relevant TG? But how do I identify the relevant TG? Agencies cannot. So a little bit shift of all of this is happening towards platform. We're seeing more and more data-driven solutions. The fact that you can say, okay, I want to hit the same audience 5 times through different influencers, so overlapping percentage should be high, or through unique influencers, because I don't want to hit the same audience with maybe multiple influencers, right? So this is one thing that's changed. Another thing that we've, at least in our personal experience, we've done over 5,000 campaigns, have recently changed. There's a lot of campaigns that we are doing. There's also a ROI focus that's coming up, right? When you are doing such level of data optimization, you're able to actually generate certain level of ROI, right? Influencer marketing wasn't looked at from an ROI perspective for a very, very long time. But right, you can only spend so much. When you are giving away cash, you're giving away products, you want some returns to kick in. And that has started to happen when you choose the right set of influencers. So an ROI driven approach, a long-term partnership with people who are generating ROI driven approach has also kicked in. So you'll want to actually run a 1-year program with influencers who are working with you and who are generating good returns to you, than doing a small one-off campaign. So, just to summarize, we see larger number of influencers every month. We see longer term partnerships, and we see more data-driven approach. A little bit shift on the platform side.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, in the D2C business, obviously, the idea of influencers is, busted the funnel, right? So you can get awareness, credibility, consideration all at one go using influencers, right? Even before you start doing YouTube or advertising, I mean, most brands have managed to get some kind of a critical scale using the idea of influencers. And as I hear you, Ishan, you were saying 3 parts to this whole game. You're saying A1, a bit of structure, because currently there are so many unknowns, right? Who are the influencers? How do I choose them? Some of them may turn up, some of them may not turn up. How do I manage them? So it's the organizing aspect to the influencer game, right? Do they get paid? Do they not get paid? Are they professional, not professional? That's one aspect. Second is, you're saying the targeting, that am I getting the right influencer? Who's their audience? And so on and so forth. And the third, which marketers are asking for, is measurement, right? Am I getting bang for my buck, right? I mean, those are the 3 aspects that we are looking at. I want to switch to Chhavi and get into the minds of a creator. But before I ask Chhavi about the scary things that we just spoke about with Ishan, I want to understand, Chhavi, from you, how does a creator's mind work? Right, we guys are sitting here trying to build technology, structure, data, and all of that. But how does the creator's mind work? What do you think about when you're creating content, and who are you worried about when you're creating content? I'm sure you're not worried about brands on a daily basis.
That'd be interesting
So,
for me to also know. Yeah.
so I'll tell you, when a brand approaches us and asks us the numbers that you're talking about, Ishan, it's very disheartening to a certain point, because what we like to focus on as creators is the actual piece of content that we create, whether it is resonating with the audience that we are catering to, whether we are being true to ourselves, whether we are being true to the brand by showcasing the brand and communicating the points that the brand wants us to communicate in an organic fashion, which is well received by the audience, thereby not making the content look like an advertisement or an advertisement piece, right? So that is our main focus. But when you put numbers on our head, like what are the number of views you're going to get, what is the engagement rate you're going to get, what is your TG, and we just get baffled, because we're like, oh no, you're just restricting us in this thing. And if you come to us as creators to reach out to the target audience that we have, then please have some faith in us and let us create what we want to create. Now, when you talk about AI driven influencer marketing, and you're picking out your influencers based on the data that you have received, based on, you are speaking about their audience insights, their target audience, and all of that, I also feel that many times as an Instagram influencer, especially, a lot of brands come to me with campaigns which are very well defined. Okay, they know exactly what I have to say. They know exactly how I have to say it. They even have a person coming to shoot my video in my house. They even know what angles to use, where the insert of the product will go, and how the packaging will come. And all of that becomes so defined for me that I feel as an influencer, whatever number of people are following me, am I not trying to make a fool of them by just doing what 60
Yeah.
other people are doing or 100 other people are doing? So then
Yeah.
where is the creative freedom that you give to the influencers that you have chosen with all the technology that you have today? I think the basic fact that the actual content that the influencer is creating should be created by the influencer is somewhere getting lost, because every campaign is ending with the same tagline. There is the same brand end slate which is coming. There is some of them even write the captions and send you that this is what you write with your emoji. I mean, I'm writing in my caption that my daughter loves this and this or so and so, which is not true. My audience knows it's not true, because I'm not an advocate of that. I'm an advocate of something else. So at least give me the freedom to write what I want to write, and then
Yeah.
maybe you'll have my audience will receive the campaign better. And then, in my experience, campaigns which are driven like this do not get the engagement that I would have otherwise got, if I was given the freedom to create what I wanted to create. So I feel that the more organic it is, the better reach I can commit. I don't know about numbers, huh, Ishan?
No,
I
amazing. You're
agree.
saying
I agree on the
Chhavi,
content
too
side.
much of standardization, yeah, will kill it. Sorry, go ahead, Ishan. Yeah.
No, I agree with what Chhavi is saying. I think she's bang on, spot on the fact that, you can't limit the creativity of a creator, because that just ruins the whole purpose, right? The idea of standardization is not from the perspective that returns or views are asked in like commitment. They are more from the perspective that you could pick relevant influencers who could generate better views, right? Like that. That's more like a shortlisting criteria for me who to work with. But and standardization also is very tricky, right? Like you don't want to standardize pieces where content or creativity is involved. You want to standardize the piece where, like I talked about, a lot of streamlining is happening, right? And then there is a data driven approach. When I talk about streamlining, industry today is plagued with very, very basic fundamental issues. Number one issue is, and I'm not generalizing everyone, I'm saying just a percentage of people who take products, who influencers also participate, who back out at the end of the moment because of certain emergency issues, some family issues that kick in, which really needs to be looked into, right? Like I feel like both sides, not just the influencer side, even the brand side, needs to be a little more accountable towards that. The industry is currently facing issues in just these basic issues of backouts, on the fact that we can't currently run a campaign with 1,000 influencers if you want to do it tomorrow. It's just not possible manually, right? But you can run a 1 lakh rupee campaign on your Facebook ad, and you can also scale that tomorrow to a 10 lakh rupee campaign every day. The fact that you can scale other digital routes, you can't scale influencer marketing the same way you would have liked. We believe the streamlining is going to more happen on the process point of view, not from the creativity standpoint. I think a lot of brands do come, like Chhavi said, they're asking for exactly what they are looking for to be put in the captions, right? I don't think, I agree with Chhavi, those don't do well, right? Like, you cannot ask the creator to do, like, that's the whole purpose of being a content creator, right? You have a basic idea, I like the product, and I think I can do something interesting with the product and with what I really talk about, what I really truly believe in, and I can integrate those beautifully well with, say, my next video. And that's where the magic really happens, right? So creators are supposed to be given that freedom while they're creating that content, while streamlining is more for the process part of it. And yeah, Dheeraj.
Yeah, I think the system has to learn, and it is learning, right? Because typically we are called marketing managers or brand managers, right? So control is embedded in the job definition, and classically marketing heads have defined their job as controlling the brand asset. Where does the brand come? How does it come? And this is very new. I mean, the whole model of marketing, the whole framework is changing, right? And therefore there'll be some time before everybody kind of learns and realizes that this is not about control. This is in fact about letting go. This is about setting an objective and setting certain boundaries and then backing off and then letting the influencers do their job. But classically, you have to understand that most of these marketers are used to make TVCs where every frame is discussed, debated, every frame has an objective, and it's a full control broadcast medium, and they're transitioning from a complete control broadcast medium to the other end, where you have to let go of all control and hope that the people you've chosen will do more good than harm to your brand. And that's where the system has to learn. But I want to ask you, Chhavi, are there aspects? I mean, my question to you is that where do you get your inspiration from? How do you figure what works with your audience, what doesn't work with your audience? I understand that a lot of influencers have been through that cycle and they've learned by doing things, and oh, this works, this doesn't work, and authenticity works. I know some of those aspects, but do you think that a bit more clarity on who your audience is, a bit more clarity on what content worked and what content didn't work, will help you shape things better? What I'm trying to pick your brains on is that, is data of any use to you at all or none?
No, data is definitely of use. In a broader way for sure, that if I know that my majority of my audience is women, then I know that I'm going to, benefit if I create content for women or vice versa. So that kind of breakdown helps. But I feel that as a content creator, the kind of content that I create will define the kind of audience that I'm, attracting to my platform. So in a way, it also works the other way, that if I continue to create the kind of content that I'm creating, I'm anyway attracting the similar kind of audience. So what I, without confusing myself too much with data, what I like to do is create what I feel is true to me as an individual. Because if I'm making something which is true to me, I know that it's falling on ears which I want my audience to be. Right. So in a way, I'm collecting the kind of audience that I want on my platform and not any random kind of audience. So I'll stray away from, for example, I'll stray away from beauty products because that's not who I am. I'm not too much of a makeup person. So I don't want somebody coming and following me who wants to follow me for beauty tips. You get what I'm saying? I am a lot into fitness, so I'll create a lot of fitness content. So I know that people who want to be fit will come and follow my page. So in a way, I feel that I can actually define my platform's data myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're saying instinctively you know it. I mean, it doesn't need any more further analysis paralysis. And do you worry that too much of data coming in, as we were having the chat earlier, Chhavi, that this might do to the influencer ecosystem what TRPs did to the TV ecosystem, where every week you have to change the thread of programming or kill some character just to live up to the TRPs?
Well, I think a little bit of that is already happening. But I think one thing which AI cannot determine is the kind of okay, you can determine what kind of audience you want to cater to and what kind of influencer is getting you the audience that you want and all of those basic data points, but you cannot determine what kind of personalities you want to associate with, what kind of brand ethos resonates with the influencer's personality that you're associating with. That is not something artificial intelligence can ever determine. So I think as long as that is in place, we don't have too much to worry about. There will be a human touch involved everywhere, and there will be brands who would want to associate with influencers, not because they have a certain audience, not because they get a certain number of views or certain engagement, but because of who they are and what kind of message do they bring as somebody who's endorsing their product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ishan, coming back to you, right? I mean, obviously, I know what you are trying to do, because marketing and business is largely about predictability, right? It's about outcomes which are guaranteed. That's where you put your money, right? And you instinctively are scared or cannot justify things which has too many variables, which has too many unknowns. And influencer marketing currently has too many unknowns, right? I mean, who do I select? Will the person turn up? Will they deliver the goods? How do I measure what am I getting? Until the point that the whole ecosystem is unmeasurable, the pie that it will command of a media budget or a marketing budget will be very small, right? So it's critical that for this to scale up, there is measurability, there are controls, and there's predictability of outcomes, right? That's where you're perhaps coming from. But is it too early to begin to think of saying what should we structurize and where should we put data and what should be let alone, right? So that we don't go down the track of some of the mistakes we've made with some other mediums.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I agree with the fact that predictability, number one, in measurability, number two, these are two very critical things required for any marketer to say, okay, I'm going to put money in this, right? This just makes sense. I can predict what the return is going to be. And then finally being able to measure that returns also. And that's the reason influencer marketing is still what a very, very small percentage, right? Less than, we're just talking about 900 crores of influencer marketing spends in India. It's peanuts compared to digital marketing spends that happen every year. And the fact is that because there is certain predictability and measurability there, people are willing to spend that kind of money on Facebook ads and Google ads. So at the same time, I agree with you on the second fact, which is, you can't control everything. You'll have to let go of certain things. However, data is not seen from the point of view that you have to definitely, like, you can make certain decisions on data. You don't necessarily need to make those decisions on data, but not having data is not a great choice, right? Like, I'm not saying definitely, just only work with certain set of people with certain set of ROI, right? You have to experiment with different set of people and have to have that open mindset, which every marketing domain, be it digital marketing or anything, you'll have to try different things to really know what's working for you. So data is just a medium for you to know exactly what's going on with your campaigns, right? That black box which you were put into is completely gone away because you now have clarity. And I mean, think about it from, I think about it from the point of view that not everything is very honest. Okay. There is certain set of fraud that's happening in terms of fake followership, in terms of fake engagement. At Chhavi and I would know there are pods, right? So which is subs, which is like for like, you like my post, I like your post. There are things like these that exist, right? And the data just makes it, it doesn't do anything wrong to the influencer side or the brand side, just makes both parties more accountable, which means I will be a little more careful doing this next. I do not want to go and get fake engagement. I do not want to get fake followership on my channel, because I know it's not just going to count anything, right? And that actually brings in the more important aspect, which is, lets the creator also focus on what is more important, which is content, right? I can be more creative. I can spend more time and energy in actually creating content that generates value than talking about content ki yaar mere paas likes badhe ya mere followers badhe ya anything of that sort. So it's just a medium or mechanism to, I would say, bring more transparency in the system, predictability, measurability, and only towards the upward direction. The step is going to only move the industry towards an upward direction, and in fact for both brands as well as creators. So you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to say something.
Sorry, go
I
ahead,
just
yes.
want to butt in here.
Yes.
And say that in terms of data, I think it's appropriate to add that when we suggest to a brand that this is the series that we would like to integrate your product in, we do keep in mind that, okay, the product is women centric. This is a series which is more popular amongst women. So, this will be a perfect organic fit for the brand. And the second thing that we really look into insights for is the time of upload, because Facebook timings are different. What time is my audience coming online? If I put a piece of content at the wrong time, it sometimes just falls flat. And many times I've noticed that if I just re-upload it on another time after studying the insights, it will hit a million mark in less than 24 hours. And that, I think, is a huge help for me as a content creator when I'm creating content and uploading. It's a small thing. I mean, we've made a fantastic piece of content, but you upload it at 9 o'clock in the morning, it'll just die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned, Chhavi, from you that you're already using insights. You're already using data in some way. I mean, it's not that you're just being a mad creative person saying, I will do what I do, let people like it or not like it. You already have a method to this madness, right? Tell us when has it been the most enjoyable? What have been your most enjoyable working experience, if at all, with brands, and what makes it enjoyable for you as a creator when you're working with the brands?
Can I be totally honest?
Absolutely.
Okay, what I enjoy the most is when I'm able to convince the brand to do it my way. I mean, I feel it's a huge victory because I've worked with some really big brands and they all have amazing teams of experienced people. And when I show them my perspective and when they all come on the same page, I feel it's a huge victory because I'm somebody who has literally no background in advertising or management, or I'm a literature student and I studied Hindustani classical music. So I have no background in all of this. And whatever I've learned, also another thing which I enjoy a lot is studying the insights and studying the different social media platforms and what works on which platform and what doesn't work on which platform. So I see so many people make mistakes that just because this is working on YouTube, it'll work on Facebook. I mean, we even recreate and re-edit and repackage the content. Even if it's the same piece of content going on different platforms, it is repackaged for every platform. So that is something which is very interesting for me. And I feel because social media platforms keep changing every day, one always has to be on your, on his toes, because you need to reinvent yourself also. And that sort of never gives me a dull day.
Yeah. I think, Ishan, what we are hearing from Chhavi is that standardization is fine, right? Maybe sharpening the target audience is fine. But sometimes what happens is that we create the monster and then the monster cannot be controlled, right? Like research in creativity, right? So we invented research in researching ads, whether to figure that are there any gross negatives, is it working or not? But at times we begin to use it to dictate creative. And I think that's where we'll probably be crossing the line and we will actually do us more harm than good, because as Chhavi is saying, those pieces which are dictated by data, which are dictated by research, may actually do less well than pieces which are organic, which are glued to the personality of the influencer. And that personality, there is no algorithm right now to replicate that or figure that out. So what seems to be coming out is that fine, structure this, help us do better targeting, more insights are welcome, but stay away from dictating creative. What would you think about that, Ishan?
Okay, so you have to see it from both perspectives here. I agree with that. I think I do not at any point in time would limit creativity of creators while they're creating content, right? The brands that we work with, at least that's a very, very strong recommendation that let creators do what they do best, which is create content. Let's focus on the other areas, right? Standardization, scalability. Let's do 10,000 influencers in 2 days. Let's scale up. Let's identify the relevant set of insights. A lot of also understand the insights that Chhavi is talking about is only visible to Chhavi today, right? So she very well knows what the right time to post is, right? And she very well knows what influencers, what her audience is it women? And she's probably the best judge for that. And that's why a lot of times when you have to make, perhaps you even have to make a decision between data versus what influencers is telling you, you should listen to the latter, right? But you have to understand from the brand side, it's a black box. I don't know anything about any influencer, right? And I can't go individually ask, what's your audience, right? Is it women centric? Should we be doing women products with you? Or is it your, what's the good time to post so that I can align my other marketing activities? So I'm talking from both sides, right? From a brand's perspective, that insight needs to be, or a part of that insight needs to be available to the brand, so that I can make that decision, right? I need women-centered influencers who create content around women, or the interest is actually beauty, or interest is actually fitness, and the age is between 18 and 25. That insight is currently only available with the influencer on their Instagram, right? Not available to the brands. And that's basically the flow of information that will help them do a lot of work easily, right? Having said that, I'm a big fan of data and data-driven approach. I do feel like at some point we'll be able to do persona also match, which is, is the brand's ethos match with the influencer ethos. I'm hopeful. I'm positive about. I support technology.
Chhavi has care hidden behind the mask. I can see that.
No, I'm saying I'm hopeful that will also happen at a fairly accurate rate, where we'll be able to identify, okay, this influencer matches, because at the end of the day, you're analyzing the content that goes out. Social media is a web of information, right? And you don't know how much you let go of, which is slightly scary. But you're a public profile, right? Like your data is, so in that way, right? I think you may be able to match the personas really well also, right? Like anything.
So
like talk about
the arguments, and the arguments for structure and data and AI are saying that we need that for control, for scalability, and for transparency, and also for access to everybody. And the argument from a creative side is that all that is fine, but do not try and get too far into my territory where I lose the organic sense.
Correct. Let me just summarize that piece, Dheeraj, like you rightly said. So there are three aspects, okay? I feel like the biggest problem is still not being able to run influencer marketing campaigns. There are backouts. It's very hard to manage multiple influencers. If you're looking to scale and do a 6,000 influencer campaign, then coordinating with every single influencer is pain, right? Currently, that's why agencies kick in, where they intermediate between a brand and say 100 influencers each, and there are 10 agencies who are lined up to do it, right? Disintermediation is extremely important. That's what, say, a platform like Wobb brings in.
Like a marketplace.
A marketplace, correct? And even not just a normal marketplace, right? So in a normal marketplace, you'll have to still interact with 1,000 influencers over chat, right? What we do at Wobb is slightly different. I'm not going to get into that, but disintermediation is a problem. Backouts are a problem. Unable to scale is a problem. There are so many fundamental problems in this industry that data is like so much secondary, right? We're talking about what will happen in the future when it comes to influencer marketing. Data is the way according to us to go, right? Data, however, now when you move the big elephant in the room, you have data as a second aspect. You're looking to data just to bring in transparency. I would not say really control, but transparency, measurability, predictability. These are three things. You control or not, that is, up to you. The third part, which I completely agree with Chhavi, which is when it comes to the content side, you have to rely on the influencer. There is no way out. You cannot dictate what is to be done and expect a good result, right? Like they just know so much about their channel. You have absolutely zero clue about their channel compared to them, right? It's their bread and butter. They live and breathe their channel. So definitely hear them out. And I think these are the three fundamental, like the way we look at data, we look at content, and we look at standardization. I personally think all of these pointers in there.
It definitely looks like that data and standardization structure is the way to go, right? And this will help scalability and transparency and greater control. Chhavi, any last words from a creator perspective of saying what should we do and what should we completely stay away from in this journey?
So I think because there are too many people involved, okay, there's the brand, and then you're saying there are multiple agencies involved. So one person is this, or a team of people is deciding a campaign, and then there is this brief which is going down to these 10 agencies, and then the brief is coming down to the influencers. Now influencers, you want to give them the creative freedom, but when they come back with their own suggestions, then that has to go back to that agency, then somebody else on top of that person, and then the brand, and then the brand doesn't understand what the influencer said, or 100 of them said, and it's all a khichdi, So it's very difficult to find a solution to this, because ultimately there's a lot of money riding behind it. So nobody wants that the brand is not able to communicate what they want to communicate, and everybody's saying something different. वो भी नहीं होना चाहिए. But a little bit, I think that when you reach the influencer, like you do your whole AI nonsense, and then you decide which influencers you want to work with. And then you send them a brief and let them do what they want to do. I think that is in everybody's interest.
Yes. Or you can break the pyramid, right? I don't think there needs to be a pyramid. That's what I was talking about, disintermediation. The fact that every time information passes from one to another, there's a leakage of information, right? And in fact, oftentimes creator creates something that doesn't get even passed to the brands as is, right? Like there is so much that, and that's why it's the first point was there's a shift from agencies, and agencies will keep bringing their own value add. It's not that they're going to go away, but the value add will be different, right? They don't need to be in the only value add that agencies currently doing is being an intermediary in between brands and influencers. That doesn't need to be there. There's technology for that, right? And I can tell you exactly the technology also if we had time, but there's technology that is currently being in use for that, where you don't need layers of, and for a brand, I still feel like I'm chatting with just one person. It may be a web of influencers, it may be 6,000 influencers I'm working with, but I'm not handling 6,000 chat channels. Technology is so advanced that I can use a single chat window to manage 6,000 influencers. Now, if disintermediation kicks in and these pyramid is broken, right? The fact that what Chhavi is trying to explain to the brand will also be directly going to the brand and vice versa. And it can be much more collaborative in terms of the approach of, in terms of the work approach. So I think definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So as it looks, the future of AI and influencer marketing will lie somewhere between the control and the freedom, between the supply and the demand side. Thank you so much, both of you, Ishan and Chhavi, for such an amazing conversation. All the very best to both of you, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jindal, Ms. Mittal, and Mr. Sinha for a very interesting discussion. Now we'll move to the next session. Stay tuned, everyone.